Libra 16, a boat landing washed away. We imagine that men and women have built this quay or pier so that they can bring their fishing boats in and have some security from the powers of the sea in order for them to carry on their trade. And then one day a wind comes, a big storm, and it just washes away the man-built thing. And this is happening all the time, especially in certain countries like America where hurricanes are frequent. The things that we make are really easily destroyed by nature, and nature doesn't really respect our wishes. And this is a cause of great distress, of course, because we build what we need, and we need it for security and in our purposes of trade and looking after the family and our business and so on. We need these things that we build, and yet nature comes along and trashes it really immediately. Volcanoes and erosion of soil and many things. It's not just the storm that washes the boat landing away that we're discussing. It's the power of nature to destroy the puny little things that we build. And we're being asked to look at this process from the other point of view. We're being asked to see that this force of nature, this entropy which destroys things, is actually good. This is one of the best, if not the best, law of nature, that what is no longer productive and able to withstand the forces that come, that must be blown away. And this is true on the level of psychology. Whatever is within us that simply cannot withstand the forces of nature, the ups and downs of emotional trials and tribulations that are inevitable, whatever cannot withstand that must be destroyed, must be blown away, in order to make room for what comes next, in order to allow rebirth to occur. So this whole process of death and rebirth is being examined in this metaphor. However much we struggle to hold on to the little things that we build in life, it's only temporary, and it comes to its end when the time has come for us to move on. And that moving on is not simple little evolutionary steps, improvements, perfecting. It's not like that. It's a radical shift at the root. The foundation of our lives is rooted out, and we need to build again. It's very distressing. Most people find it too much to bear. But if we are serious about our spiritual work, then we must bear it. And there are times, not often, but there are times, perhaps once or 2 or 3 times in extreme cases, during a lifetime, when everything is removed from us, everything. The foundation of our lives, which is like where we live, who we live with, what we do for work, and even deeper issues than that, who we regard ourselves to be. In other words, who we are. This is a foundation upon which we build a life. And if it's false, it eventually gets washed away. Our image of self is just destroyed, sometimes overnight. We find an event occurs and we don't measure up. Or we find a choice is presented to us and we choose something quite strange that moves us away from what is familiar and safe into deep water, dangerous tides. So that's how it is in life. We very rarely get through a whole life from beginning to end without going through some radical disturbance. Very often it's war. Often it's emigration or hunger. Most communities in the world suffer something like that at one point in their lives. And it happens to be the case that my age group haven't really suffered very much in our lifetime. My parents had the Second World War to deal with, and their parents had the First World War to deal with. But I haven't really suffered anything that dramatic. And yet, I'm not assuming that's the end of the matter. Times look very uncertain, don't they? Something radical is coming for most of us, I would say. And we just have to accept that that's not only inevitable, that's not only something that we have to put up with. These attitudes are not helpful. The helpful attitude is that we choose this. We select this level of radical re-examination of our deepest self and what we have invested in. We want that challenge in order for us to move to the next level, the deepest level, another dimension of spiritual awareness. The thing is that however much we propose in our life, God disposes. In this case, it's the goddess, it's nature, it's the forces of entropy actually say what we can't do, what we may not try, what's beyond our ability or permission. And unless we come up against that barrier in life, then we've undersold ourselves. We have to come to the end of the game to know that we've played the game fully. And the game here is, this is permissible, this is not. This is possible, this is not. And unless we actually come to the end, the examination that says, no, that's really not possible. Nature will wash away your boat landing because you've done it wrong. You've built it in the wrong place. These are the wrong times. The times are finished. We need to move on now. Some message like that, which we cannot work out. That this doesn't come from the conscious mind. On an esoteric level, we have to understand that this comes from the deep unconscious. Very often the collective unconscious. There's a part of us, 'tis true, but it comes from so deep within us that we have no way of understanding it before it happens. What we need to understand, therefore, is that it will happen, and we're going to be seriously inconvenienced at some point in our lives, and we just have to cope with that. The best way to cope with that is to just not be too hooked on what you think is important. Get your ambitions sorted out. By all means, go for that job, get that big house, and so on. Just for a game. Treat it a little bit like a game that you want to play and you want to do well, you want to win, but it's a game. And when that game finishes, then another game begins, a different game, a better game, if you have the right attitude of mind. It's very shocking when everything that you've invested in comes to an end. Very shocking indeed. And you just have to perhaps grieve, pause, turn within, examine who you are, and wait until you're ready to start again. That process is required, and sometimes that process can take years rather than weeks or months. So respect it, respect the process of grieving, and yet be aware that even during that terrible period of experience of loss and shock and grief, during that period, be aware that something else is going on. There is a light at the end of the tunnel, and that light will grow according to the amount of attention you give it. So during the times of great turbulence in the world, back off a bit. Spend a little bit of time alone and look for that inner light that you haven't seen before because you were looking in the wrong direction. You were looking out, and it's actually an inner light. These forces of nature, the force majeure, they're aspects of our evolution on a soul level, which generate revolutionary changes on the ego level. And there's nothing much we can do to avoid them, so we have to have the right attitude when they come.